A few months ago, I bought a book called Women of Faith in the Latter Days and was surprised when I saw that the first chapter is about our ancestor. Abigail Smith Abbott is your fifth great-grandmother on your grandma Charlotte Tracy's line. As the name of the book suggests, she was a faithful woman. I hope that as you learn about her, you'll come to love her as I do. I'm taking what I learned in this book, as well as what I've researched on Family Search, to help you get to know her. Already a fine linen weaver at age 16, Abigail was hired by the mother of her future husband to live and weave in their home in New York. At age 19, she married Stephen Joseph Abbott, who was a cabinet maker and entrepreneur. They had a business in New York before moving their family of 5 children to be part of the frontier expansion of the Mississippi Valley. It was a 5-week journey on flatboat down the Allegheny River, then 12 miles of land travel to their homestead plot. They were living on their farm in Pike County, Illinois, when they were taught the gospel by missionaries William Burton and Joseph Wood. She recorded, "Our minds were not easily turned from our former principles, but after 3 months' study, we were in full faith of the principles and promises of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." In October of 1838, Governor Boggs' issue of exterminating the Mormons forced a mass exodus of the Saints from Missouri to Illinois the following year. She and her husband moved to join the Saints in Nauvoo in 1842, where Stephen served a temporal mission raising funds for the Nauvoo Temple. Stephen was called in April of 1843 to serve a mission, but he died before he could leave. He was rafting cordwood down the Missouri River to earn funds that would sustain his family while he was gone, and while doing this work he became ill with pneumonia and died that October. Abigail reported that at her husband's funeral, Joseph Smith said that he had been called to the other side to fill his mission. She was left a 37-year-old widow with 8 children, ranging in ages from 1 to 16 years old. Her family had always been self-sufficient, and it was really difficult to take charity from anyone. She said, "I trusted in God and improved every opportunity to help myself." To sustain her family, she taught school during the day and worked a large garden at night. The ground was low and swampy, and at one point, just a few months after her husband's death, they all got really sick from working in that environment. They had a terrible fever, and some even suffered from convulsions. It's possible that they had malaria. She said, "In this dark hour, some of my pretended friends had the cruelty to say that I was enduring the buffetings of Satan, and for some possible sinfulness." It was common in that time period for people to associate trials as punishment for sin. At this time, the prophet Joseph Smith in Hiram had just been martyred. Apostle Lyman White was living in the same house in rooms above hers, and some of the brethren, including Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball, came to visit the apostle. While they were there, she asked them to minister to her family, each separately, which they did. Upon leaving, Brigham Young pronounced a blessing upon the whole household that they would all recover, and they did. Her daughter wrote about this time, quote, "In the spring of this year, 1845, my mother and youngest brother were making a garden, and my brother found 5 cents. We had eaten the last of our bread for breakfast and did not know where we could get any more. When he found the money, mother took it and bought 1/2 bushel of cornmeal, it being 10 cents a bushel. When that was gone, my eldest sister said to mother, 'We ate the last of our bread for breakfast. What are we going to have for dinner?' Mother replied, 'The Lord sent us this, and he will provide for us.' In a short time, a dear friend of father's was passing by and came in to see us. He asked mother if she had plenty to eat. She said, 'We have not anything.' He went to his wagon and brought in 100 pounds of flour, a ham, some cheese, and butter that was a great help to us and proved that the Lord would provide. We had bread most of the time after that." 2 to 3 years after her husband's death, Abigail married one of her husband's friends, Captain James Brown, as a plural wife in Nauvoo. It was 1846, and she was 39 years old. I don't believe they ever lived together. They never had any children. I imagine it was a marriage for protection, which was common at that time. Her oldest daughter, Emily, married Edward Bunker that same month. Emily and Edward are your fourth great-grandparents. That year, the Nauvoo Saints were driven out of their homes again as they fled as refugees, this time to Illinois. Captain Brown and Emily's husband, Edward, were called to the Mormon battalion a few months later, and Abigail was left to care for her pregnant daughter and the families of her two sister wives at various times during their trek to Iowa. In July 1849, Abigail left Iowa with George A. Smith's wagon company to trek west to Salt Lake. The company arrived in October of that year. Quote, by the time Abigail reached Salt Lake City, she had sustained her family without a husband and protector for 3.5 years. Her husband, Captain James Brown, prepared for her arrival by securing land in Brownsville, also known as Brown's Fort. This is now the present-day Ogden. There, Abigail and her household took up 10 acres of land and built a 3-room log house with a dirt roof, a welcome permanent residence. Abigail lived there the rest of her life. To quote from the book Women of Faith, when Abigail learned that soldiers of the Mormon Battalion were to be honored at a 4th of July celebration in Salt Lake City, she penned an epistle to Governor Brigham Young. It detailed her experiences of 3.5 years camped in temporary shelters with other wives of Mormon Battalion members who had been left on the Iowa frontier, awaiting their husbands' return. Her account provides a rare glimpse of the hardships endured by the women and children left to care for themselves during the absence of their husbands and fathers. Her letter was a reminder that the work of the battalion would not have been possible without the sacrifices of their families. It bespoke her hope that their contribution would not be entirely overlooked. You can read her letter in its entirety in the book, but I'll just close with this quote from it. If the wives of those brethren that went in the battalion merit any applause or reward, I hope they will get it. Again quoting from that book, Abigail remained a teacher to the last, as evidenced in her 1887 letter to a grandson, James Smith Abbott, in which her wise words echo phrases from Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. She said, the way to be happy is to have a conscience void of offense. Do not do anything that will bring you into bondage under sin. For whosoever you list to obey, his servant you are, whether the Lord or the devil. Learn well the short lesson to say no. I hope you'll be inspired by this ancestor's faith and fortitude. This is the first of a series of videos I want to share with you. You come from a long line of strong men and women that held firm to their testimonies of the restored gospel and demonstrated commitment despite harrowing opposition. It's my prayer that you'll look to their example when you face opposition in your life.